Welcome to the Living Your Genius show with me, Donusia Lipinski, Unlocking Your Power Within. This show ignites your inner spark and empowers you to live a life filled with purpose and passion. Join Dr. Pat and me as we embark on a journey into the transformative power of your thoughts, inner genius, and creative imagination. In each episode, we deep dive into the realms of self discovery, practical insights, and actionable strategies to unlock your full potential to thrive in all aspects of your life with grace and ease. Whether striving to overcome challenges, cultivate resilience, or pursue your passions with purpose, the Living Your Genius show is your go to place for personal growth. Let's deep dive and unlock the power within to manifest the life of your dreams.
To be able to do this and share, the conversation, the energy, and that genius with the most incredible coach that I know, right? I mean, if you want to understand about how to get to the place where your dreams continue to grow and flourish, how to remove the things that get in your way, how to set an intention so pure and so beautiful that you never have to think about it again. This is Donusia. This is the woman whose life you've heard about, whose obstacles, what did they become? Stepping stones, and whose future is so bright. Because today you're going to hear about how intuition illuminated. What does it do? When intuition is illuminated, what can you expect? Well, today it's a journey towards self-discovery and alignment, but it's more than that. When you're on that pathway and you're divinely guided and you can trust in that, you're unstoppable. And as I like to say, you're unstuckable. Danusia. Oh, okay. Let's talk about this. This is a really important topic to you, and you've alluded to it in past shows where you've talked about your own journey. But there's something here that is so really important that people don't know about intuition illuminated. Let's talk about how this unlocks your inner guidance system so that you can look at what it is to explore in the essence of intuition.
Well, I just want to again acknowledge your work, Dr. Pat, and the work of the team in really allowing this kind of a conversation to take place, not only here, but around the world. The topics that you cover, the exploration. Sonia Choquette talks about having a community, creating a community of sixth sensory folks, right? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about our sixth sense. There's this wonderful quote by Paul Simon. He says, "Trust your intuition, just like going fishing." And it brings a little bit levity to it, just because people get confused as to what intuition is. I don't have intuition, but we all have that divine, that inner spark that connects us. And when we learn to listen to it and to hear what it's saying to us, we're on the path to success. There's this wonderful quote that I wanted to share with you all by Einstein. And he says, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift." And so I believe that all successful people, all people that are really on their path and on their journey, have tapped into the sixth sense. We all have the sixth sense, but we mostly live from the world of our five senses. And so, Dr. Pat, I know that you've had experiences in your life where you've tapped in. Oprah Winfrey says that every successful decision that she's made has come from her intuitive mind. And whenever she's not followed that, she's had mistakes.
Yeah, I love that because I agree with her. I agree with Oprah on this. And if both of us can remember this, where every decision we've made that was intuitively guided, and I've gone back and at various times looked at my life in that way. But when I don't follow my intuition, it has led me down a pathway that has either attempted to derail me from my natural purpose on this planet or has created enough fear and doubt. And I know you're going to talk about these today, to temporarily delay And I can't express the pain in that. You know, Oprah says, I've made a mistake. I say the same thing. But to understand the pain sometimes from not following your tuition is a whole nother show, isn't it? But it's
Oh,
painful. It's painful.
it is painful. It's the regret. It's the if only I woulda, coulda, shoulda. It's the shooting on ourselves. It's the regret. And it really deflates us. And if
Yeah.
we believe that that one failure or the one time that we didn't listen to our intuition is obviously it means that we're really not meant to be whatever we are meant to be, whomever we are meant to be, then we're really going down the wrong path. But the bottom line is that some people think that intuition, I believe that some people think that intuition has to be this da 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 thing, like this really amazing bolt of lightning kind of experience. And it can be as simple as just having that feeling in your gut, that hunch. I just the other day I called my sister. I don't know what was the prompt for it, but I just thought, oh, I got to call Mary Jane. She's in Minneapolis. Pick up the phone. I call her, and she said, "Oh, Donusia, I was just thinking. I was just thinking about you. I was just thinking about calling you." That's the voice of intuition. It's that still small voice.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have, and it doesn't come from our thoughts. It doesn't come from our emotions, like what we're feeling. It comes from, we hear it in different ways, but it comes from within. It's really that connection that we've talked about before, Dr. Pat, that connection that we have with all that is that divine inner guidance system.
Yeah. And
And
I love what you said because you bring up something that I love talking about. And let's continue to talk about this because I think it's so important to explain what intuition is and what it isn't. But what you just shared was what I call intuitive action. It's not like, oh, I thought about you and I did nothing. I thought about you and oh, lo and behold, we're on a call, we're on a phone call. And I think we're going to talk about that today and experience this. But I want to ask you, what have you discovered in the way people and yourself have experienced intuition? And, you know, this is important for all you watching because so often you think it's for the top 1% of the people in the world, that just because you hear Oprah say it, that it's not you. Well, whatever Oprah's got, you have. And let's talk about that if we could.
no, that's so true, Dr. Pat. Everybody, everyone. I mean, we talk about, again, in the world of fact, in the world of circumstances, we have five senses, right? But we forget the most important sense, which is our sixth sense, and we all have it. We come into the world with it. But there are times that we forget well, remember when people would talk about being woo-woo, right? But when you listen to people talking, you might hear them say, "Oh, I have a hunch," right? Or
Oh, yeah.
I just had this incredible brainstorm, right? If you listen to how people language, their thought processes, what's going on, you can hear it in them. Um, I I realize that the way that I mean, sometimes I really, Dr. Pat, just really have this sense like I know, like I know, like I know. When I know that nobody can talk me out of it, like that's that knowing, right? That's that strong intuition.
Yeah.
That's that connection. But there are other times that if I don't really pay attention
Yeah.
to using my intuition, then I'm really not. I'm not that I'm tapping out of it, but I'm not really giving full credit to that power that's within me.
Yeah.
So I realize that when I get God bumps or angel bumps, what we sometimes call goosebumps, I don't know why
Yes.
or chicken skin or whatever it is, right? But when I get that, I get it on my arms. When I get a whole body sensation, it's like, wow, I just have to stop and listen and go into my heart because really intuition is about listening to that your heart,
Yeah.
love, right? And then sometimes there'll be like water behind my eyes, just like it's like a full body experience. I had it this morning. I decided to pull out my Rumi Oracle cards.
Oh, right.
And oh my goodness, mine was the impossible is possible. And there he talks about nature and he talks about love and how it permeates everything. And so intuition affects people differently.
Yeah.
Some people hear things. Our cat communicated with Stuart one time. but you got to listen to it, right? Because cats are very intuitive. He was walking along and the cat was meowing, meow, 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 wouldn't let him go. And finally said, "What is going on?" And as soon as he said that, he ran home because he remembered that he left the burner on the pot, right? So, but it's having the awareness, Dr. Pat.
I want to really talk about something, and then we're going to take a really short break, very short, Emily. I want to talk about this. Often I get on a call and I do a show, and whoever I'm on with will say something, and I'm going to say it today. They'll say something like, "How did you know I was going to wear blue? Like, how did I know you were going to wear black and tan? And I show up with black and gold and tan scarf. How did we know?" And this is really the difference. The message for all of you out here today is I would love to, this is me now, I would love to challenge you. And when we come back from break, we're going to show you how. Because using your intuition doesn't cost anything. You don't have to buy anything, although I do have a brain tap that I use, but you don't have to do that. When we come back, we're going to give you real examples, but let me leave you with this. This is the thought. When Caitlin Clark, or the fastest woman in the world right now, Ms. Richardson, when these two ladies, when Caitlin Clark is holding that basketball and she knows she's behind the 3-point line, do you think what goes through her mind is, am I far enough? Do you think I'll make it? Do you think I'm not going to make it? Oh, what if I don't make it? Or are you watching something of beauty in a nanosecond, planting her feet, raising her arms, and taking the shot? What's driving it? I'll tell you now. It's called the intuition, take the shot. And I'm talking about basketball. When you're playing a sport like this, you get one or two choices. You're either going to be in the game or you're not. Life is giving us opportunities. When we come back, Donusia's going to walk you through, what is it? Decision, ability. Can you sharpen it? Where do I start? What do I do? When we come back, all of that and how to cultivate your inner voice from my incredible host of this show. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Living Your Genius. This is Unlocking Your Power Within. Donusia is joining me here today, and this is Donusia's show. And, you know, part of this is let me just call it a sliver of the pie of what this amazing coach does. Mm-hmm. And before we go on, we're going to give you all some examples, because I want you to be able to, by the end of the show, I want you to just look and reflect and say, I didn't know I was going to do that, but then I did it. And wow. But before we do that, please let folks know how they can find out more about you, how they can work with you, and a little bit about some of the work you do.
Yeah, so I'm a life empowerment coach. I'm certified to do dream building, to do high performance coaching. So I can be reached through Grace and Ease Life Coaching. That's my business. That's my coaching business. My phone number to text me is 843-340-5083. My website again is graceandeaselifecoaching.com. And people can email me if they have a question at Donusia, Donusia @Donusia.com to make it simple. So that's how I can be reached. We can do a free strategy session, just a consult to see how I can help you absolutely live and design the life that you love using your intuition, coming from that power within, using your inner guidance system to really do what you're here to do, because we all have a purpose. We were all brought here for a purpose. And if we live in the land of circumstances that says I can't, or I tried, or I listened to my intuition once and it was wrong, and whatever, right? But if we have doubts, like, what would you love? What would you love more of in your life? So I love working with people to inspire them. My pin says to ignite the fire within. So igniting the fire within is what I love, love, love to do.
Oh my gosh. And that's why we're talking about what we're talking about today. I mean, let's talk about, before we get into giving you all some tools, and we're most likely going to skip the last break because we want to make sure you have everything. You know, when you watch us, Donusia asked me, you asked me during the break, like example, and I said, I got to tell you, if it wasn't for my intuition and following that inner voice, I would not be speaking with you today. There would be no Dr. Pat show, no crust busting your way to an awesome life. There would be no TTN, TTR. There'd be no expansion of what we're about to do. It wouldn't exist. There would be no unlimited possibilities now. The corporation, a full media company, all positive thought, zero. Like a zero, like put a fat zero on a piece of paper. And that's what it is, right? In 1992, had I not intuitively, I say an alien baby took over my body. In 1992, stood up for myself, stood up for people. As a matter of fact, they still talk about this as a legend. They don't say my name, but they talk about the woman that stood up and refused to implement downsizing. What happened to me? How did I know to do that? How did I jeopardize my own pension in doing it? You see, all of these things led me to places in my life that I don't know that I could have thought my way to. How about you?
Oh, I love what you said, because when I look, as you were talking, I was listening and I was also reflecting. I was like, yeah, if I hadn't listened to my intuition to go to law school, which was after being an auto worker, like I wouldn't be here. If I hadn't listened to my intuition after my son passed, and took that time off to be on the spiritual journey and to know that my healing, like I knew that my healing was a spiritual journey, and the taking the steps that I needed to take, I wouldn't be here. And I remember, if I hadn't realized that there was some discontent in my life and listened to the voice that said, get some transformational training, go to Lisa Nichols, Speak and Write to Make Millions. But Dr. Pat, I got to tell you, and for anybody listening, it was so unlike because I was a lawyer, I was an immigration lawyer, and I was used to spending my money and going to conferences, but on immigration law, that was my business, and I loved it. But I remember going for walks in this beautiful park. And of course, trees give us energy, and there's like, we can get so much from nature. But I remember muscle testing, doing body muscle testing. Is it in my highest and best interest to go to this conference? And I, yes and no. But finally, I knew that if I didn't say yes, that I would have like really not trusted the universe. I would not have trusted that power within me. Even though I didn't understand it all at the time, I just knew that when I was muscle testing and I got the yes, that I had to listen to it. But then the doubt comes in, right? Then the doubt comes, is this really smart? What are people going to think? If I tell somebody, they're going to think I'm crazy. And all that doubt comes in. And that's where that's where the trust comes in. And we're going to talk about trust in a little bit, but really trusting and honoring that still small voice. Some people hear a voice, the gut feeling, again, the hunches. But if I hadn't trusted in big ways my intuition at that time, I mean, I wouldn't be here. And when I decided to become a life coach, right? When I knew that there had been a calling on my life for a long time, but when I met Mary Morrissey with the Brave Thinking Institute, it's like, and I went into that kind of kicking and screaming, like, what am I going to learn here, right? But when you open up yourself and you tune in and you're willing to like open up to transformation.
Yeah.
And then when I heard her, it was like, no, I have to do it. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know the how, but I knew that I had to do it. So that's in a big way, that's the intuition.
Yeah.
But we can even use intuition in small ways.
Let's
Right?
talk about this, because what you and I are talking about, we're giving examples of how you step out on your purpose and your dream. But every day, in every way, you are faced in the middle of opportunities to use it over and over again. However, we can learn. Intuition can be fine-tuned and learned. And that's the takeaway from today. You know, many of you have heard, I'm not born. No, Yeah, you are born with it, but then we forget. And so there are ways we can learn. Let's talk about some of the tools you use. How do people cultivate this? Now, I know you help people and you work with them. What do you mentor people with in how to cultivate this?
I think one of the most important things is just to help people settle, right? So there's different ways that we can access and cultivate our intuition. One way is just again by meditating, just by quieting the mind and getting rid of all distractions. Sonia Choquette has this great book that she just updated called Trust Your Vibes. And I want to
Great
share
book.
this
She's
with you.
amazing.
She is amazing. And I saw this the other day and I wanted to share it because it's so powerful. She says that every day she wakes up, and since she was a little girl, she's done this. And there's this confidence prayer. And it's very simple. And it says, Divine Spirit within me, aligned with the power of God, move me this day. Move my mind, my heart, my body, my feet in the direction of my highest and best good of all. Amen. And so it is. And so simple. Another thing that she just
And
says is
powerful.
it's powerful.
And powerful.
And she talks about saying this. Well, she talks about prayer, and prayer isn't about repeatedly saying, like the angst of like, oh, with like it's repetitive and it's like, oh, please help me. I mean, that kind of like anxiety, like that's not the prayer that she talks about. She talks about saying it like settling, and there's this breathing exercise that people can do, taking a deep breath in through your nose, and then slowly exhale like you're breathing, blowing out a candle. Doing that 2 times. And then on the third time, taking again, just closing I like to close my eyes, but just taking the deep breath in. And on the third exhale, doing ah, and it immediately settles and calms your nervous system. And once you're in that place of peace, then you can then saying a prayer or just tapping into listening and some tools. Once you tap in, have a and I love this. Make a date with your intuition.
Got to. Yeah,
Name it,
got
claim it.
to.
Name your intuition. For her, it's divine or it's light power or light bright, whatever it is for her. But name your intuition, right? Mine is divine light. I'm having a conversation with divine light today, and have a journal, have an intuition journal, and for 21 days at the same time every morning, just have a conversation, have a little prayer to invite the intuition and that voice, that inner being, right? That divine being, that light. And it's not religious. It's just that we're all connected to that, and just invite it in and write. It just, whatever comes, like without filter, like just write. It's like, write it down.
Let's just talk about this because this is a place of knowing. I want to talk before we go to break. I want to talk about what are the challenges that come in the way of actually doing this and actually doing it and believing it. So let's talk about this for a minute. I come from a very interesting family, to say the least. I'm not going to talk about my dysfunctional family today. And yes, I did say that because, look, I learned so much from it. But here's what I do want to talk about. I was exposed to a lot of interesting. My uncle was a NASCAR pit guy, like this build the engines and then the race car and the whole NASCAR thing, right? And I got to experience intuition in action as a young kid in one of them cars. Okay, now we didn't go to 200-mile-per-hour thingy, but I asked the driver after, right? After being strapped into a floor. Hello. Very illegal, by the way, so don't report anybody. But I said later, how did you know? I said, you just barely turned the wheel. You just barely turned the wheel. And then I got to sit on his lap. Of course, we went very slowly. And I got to feel the wheel of a very high-powered car. Of course, he was helping me. And after a while, I realized the second or third time around, you just know you having something so delicate and you're so in that zone of it. And even as a child, albeit he was really guiding the ship, you just know. And you see, I got that experience, especially the sport I played, but there is a sense where there is no time between your intuition and your knowing. There's no time. They're perfectly aligned. You get a sense of something, you get the feeling of fulfillment. You know, Mahali, who I studied with, created flow theory. You get it. But then comes the hard part. What the bleep do you now do with that? In cases of emergency, you don't think. Last year for me, I got on a plane. I stopped and canceled some very important business work with Jim Fannin that I was going to do, because intuitively I knew if I didn't get back to my best friend by May 19th, she would not make it. When we come back from break, we're going to take you on a journey on, Donusia is going to, how do you remove these obstacles? What are they? What is so insidious about doubt that even your knowing can't handle it? When we come back, how do you harness the power of trust?
Yes.
Or you go bust. Let's take a short break, Emily. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Living Your Genius. Donusia. Listen, before we go, you got to give out your website again, tell people what you're up to. And then we're going to talk about how you go from crust to trust. How do people find, don't forget, I've created crust busting. So crust is something I'm extremely familiar with. How do people work with you? Let's get to that.
Yeah. So I'm a life empowerment coach. Love to help people design lives that they love. I'm the CEO and the founder of Grace and Ease Life Coaching. They can text me at 843-340-5083 if they're in the US. They can email me at donusia@donusia.com, and on my website, they can even schedule either a 15-minute consultation just to kind of see where they are, how I might be able to serve them, or actually schedule a complimentary strategy session to get more clarity on what they would love, tapping into their intuition, realizing that they are more powerful than what their conditions currently might suggest otherwise. So love my work, would love to talk with people, would love to talk with people about intuition and the power of it to change our lives. We all have it. Once we tap into it, amazing things can happen.
Yeah. So let's start with this. So I got an idea about a month ago to create a book series and feature our hosts, past and present. And the book series is called Unstuckable, and it's a volume. It's going to be a volume of each person's stories, right? So I got this idea, and Jessica, of course, goes out and is finding certain publishers. But I bumped into somebody who asked me about it. And within 30 seconds, I started to doubt my idea. 30 seconds is all it took. And I was, first of all, I was vulnerable. I didn't do the things that we're talking about today. I didn't do the things that I know would strengthen my intuition. And all it took was a bump into somebody and a 30-second conversation, which I won't go into, to get me to think that it was a bad idea. Now, I know it's not today, but that's what we're talking about. Can you walk us through how we move past these obstacles, how we discern what people say to us, how we understand the truth, the clarity, and especially kick doubt in the butt? Because we have to do that in order to fully trust, don't we?
Yes, absolutely. And so I can relate to the doubt and how that can totally derail us. And by the way, in terms of sharing the journey, right? I sent you the book that right, Short, Sweet, and Sacred, where I wrote. I have a chapter in it, international bestseller. But there are like the stories of 58 other people in that book.
Amazing.
My goal, my vision, my intuition was, maybe you will talk to some of the people in that book to so that they can share their stories. And then afterwards, I did have some doubts, like, was that appropriate? But like, no, like the inner knowing. So I think with discernment, for me, the most important thing is just to go inside and to trust. So trust is huge. But so when we have doubt, it's like, what are we tapping into? One of the exercises that I think is really, really, it's just wonderful to just to try it on, right? To try it on is when you feel like you've got a decision to make and you don't know whether to say yes or no. It's just to take the deep breaths, right? To center yourself and just to put your two hands out and to imagine that there's one of the choices on one hand and the other choices on the other hand, and just close your eyes and just explore, where does there feel like there's more light, right? Is there more light on the right hand or the left hand? And trust it. So a big part of releasing the doubt and releasing the ego, because we know that when the ego is in, that we're not coming from the divine, we're coming from the land of circumstance. And so to kick doubt in the butt is just to go back into the center and just ask, is this for my highest and best good? Is this what would love say here? Right? What would love say? What would the divine say here? Is my thinking limited? But I think it's most important then is just to say stop, to do a pause. And when you tell people and they have their opinions, you're not here to please them. Like there's only one of me here, right? There's not another one of me here. So this is me and this is my life. And so it's a habit. It's a command to your subconscious to listen to your spirit and not to listen to your ego. Because our subconscious will take in whatever, but if we make a command saying, I command my subconscious to listen to my spirit and not to my doubt, not to my worry, things will happen. And it's a practice for any of these things. Discerning right from wrong, whether is it for my highest and best good or not, really, what is it, where do I feel it in my body? And so I think those are some of the strong, and then again, I'm going to say it again, but journaling, like let it all out, tap into your higher power, do the meditation, do the breathing, and just check in. What would love say here?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I want to address this for those of you out there that are like, I don't write, I don't journal. Okay. Try this. Speak it. And a lot of times what I'll do is record it. And of course, I've now learned to record it on a device that's not going to have it post all over social media. But I'll record it. And I'll record it, and I may or may not listen back to it, but there's something powerful about recording it and then hitting the delete button. There's something really powerful about that. But if we're not fully expressing and having a conversation that says, doubt, get out, if we're not having that conversation, then it's not going to leave. But you see, there is the command that we have from our inner knowing. And once we know we have the power in that, that's part of the trusting process, isn't it?
Totally. And so learning how to discern what is fear and doubt and worry, like that all comes from our ego, right? And there's a place for our ego, but when we're tapping into a higher power, it's really about listening to that inner voice. I think one of the most powerful reminders for me is just to remember that my intuition it's not filled with worry. It's not filled with doubt. There's no anxiousness. It's not contractive. It's expansive. And it doesn't have to do with our human feelings as well as that inner knowing in our body, right? And people, again, hear it differently. They might hear it. It might just be that inner knowing, a gut, listen to your gut, your instincts, and then training, it becomes a habit. The more you open up to it, the more you know that it's always there, the more you tap into it. And so much of it has to do with trust and trusting that power. And again, it's a habit.
I want to ask you about this because, for many people, that may be listening. We're not talking about always having gigantic deals. Sometimes we get a hunch, we get a hit, we get a gut, we get whatever you want to call it. In the recovery world, we call it a gut shot. You know, when we get something, it's called a gut shot. And what that means to many of us is you better be paying attention here. You know, you just got to be paying attention. But let's talk about now the connection. When you master these tools, let's talk about how this guides us to make empowering decisions and how that is the key to harnessing the power of trust.
So, again, for me, harnessing the power of, what is trust? It's having the faith. It's you have to trust the process. If you're going to have doubts, it's not going to work, right? But trusting the process means knowing is that inner knowing and going back again and again, and just it's the knowing that this is the truth of who I am. It's the truth, right? It's not something that's made up. And when you learn to trust your intuition and see the results that you have. I'm going to go back to the Oprah quote. She says, learning to trust your instincts, using your intuitive sense of what's best for you is paramount. Not that it's good, it's paramount to any lasting success. I've trusted that still small voice of intuition my entire life. And the only time I made mistakes is when I didn't listen. And so it doesn't mean that if you don't listen to your intuition one time that, it's going to keep on nudging you. It's going to keep on saying, Donusia, remember. And it might take years before I finally open up and say, oh, I get it. But again, it's a habit. It's a habit of opening up and listening and just knowing that we all are tapped into that power within us.
So let's talk about what
let me just share. It can be
please.
It can be as simple as, so one of the tools that you can use are the divination tools, right? You can use the oracle cards. You can use just to confirm, right? What what your intuition is telling you. So I was at a store once, and I couldn't decide which pair of shoes I wanted. I liked them both. I had a pendulum with me, and I took the pendulum out. And I asked, it was a yes or no question as to which shoe would be for my highest and best good. The storekeeper, the owner of the store, thought I was kind of crazy, but it helped me make a decision. So when you tap into your intuition and you know that it's the right decision, it helps you move forward. Indecision keeps us small, keeps us in the land of in between. It's like making the T bar, right? It's like this or this. But when you trust your intuition, it's that I'm doing this. And you let go of the how. We talked about it earlier. We let go of the how. We don't have to know the how it's going to go. We have to trust that whatever the next step is going to come. It's going to happen because we're tuned in. We're tapped in. And look at Oprah. It's not let her down. Look at what Einstein said. So it's just really trusting that power and knowing that there's wisdom in it.
And, let's talk about the fact that what you and I are talking about aligns us to our purpose. And that in itself, the intuitive mind aligning to our purpose allows us the freedom to really live the life we want to live. Look, when we decide to take back our power, and we do that in many ways, but taking back our power, and part of taking back our power assumes we've lost it. The reality is we haven't lost it. We just forgot. We forget how to connect with that. I think Deepak says something like, when we decide to take back our own power, we discover that the true solver of problems is intuition, not reason. So what he's saying is what you're saying and have said all through this show. There is a place we go, beyond the field of right or wrong doing. There's a place we go. And there is that place that we go that is all knowing, and it is not for the select few. So intuition, the success strategy, how does that help us align with purpose and vision? Because I'm really clear. Had it not been for me following my intuition, I just want to be really clear. Some days that was easy. Some days that was hard. Some days I was the windshield and some days I was the bug. Because sometimes when you make decisions based on your intuition, you got a whole lot of people around you that bring their fear to the party uninvited. But this is the work you do to help people. This is how you help them beyond harnessing the power of trust. This is how each and every one of us aligns with our purpose, isn't it?
Absolutely. Emerson said that the intuitive mind is a sacred, is a sacred gift. I mean, that's so powerful that the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. And if we treat it as a gift, it means that we also have to be able to, that we're here to receive that gift of intuition. And we're all energy. We know that we're all energy and that we're all connected by energy. And so when you come, we feel the energy of other people, and we have our perceptions of other people and our intuitions we have our perceptions of other people. But to listen to that, sometimes, and it's not about being judgmental. It's about really just like opening up and just and making a decision. Is this the kind of person, for example, that I would love to work with? And when there's that nudge, that doubt, like listen to that, because that's also part of your intuition. Intuition isn't only just about what you're going to do. It's also about caution. It's about getting on that airplane. Sonia Choquette shared a story where she was about to go to France, and her intuition said they were on the plane. It said, get off. And so one of her go-tos is like, so she just says stop, or she hears stop. And so they all deplaned. The plane didn't crash, but it was stuck in another, it had to go to another landing, stuck there for 40 hours. They only were going to be gone for a weekend. And so for them, would have been a disaster in that they would have been stuck. They never would have made it back. They never would have gotten to where they needed to go. So, but it's about listening to that voice of doubt and listening and paying attention to it. So it's not just about hearing it, it's about taking the action that is required with that voice of wisdom. It's wisdom. We have access to it.
Now look, I want to just say something. I get asked all the time when people find out the birth date of Transformation Talk Radio, they stop for a minute and they say, wasn't that, what? What did you do in the middle of the worst economic downturn like ever, like 2009 and la, 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 la. That's when you launched the network? I said, yeah. And they said, we don't understand that. And I said, when you're plugging into the largest audience you've ever had in front of you because of that, and they're asking for more, all you can do is what you're guided to do. And I have to tell you, once I made that decision, I didn't have the resources for it. I didn't have the technology built yet. I didn't have Oliver from Germany, who showed up an hour after a job post, or Chris DiPaolo, who recently passed away, who took a chance on us and took the network over to WBOQ. But I had a message. And the message was this: today's economic crisis is wiping out not only our savings, homes, and retirement plans, but it's wiping out people's hope for the life they dreamed of having. That's the message I sent to start the network. That's the message. And it hasn't changed in our expansion. This is to spread the message of hope and opportunity in whatever trying times. What you're doing is giving people the tools to get to their yes. That's what you're doing. You're beyond hope. A show like this is to help people understand that they have the bones called intuition to get them in a place where they don't live in their baseline. They live in the expanded view of possibilities. That's what today's show is. That's what you're doing today, aren't you?
Well, Dr. Pat, when I said yes to this opportunity to work with you, that was intuition saying, yeah, this is an opportunity to get the word out, to give people hope, to help people realize the power of their thoughts, but to have people also realize the power of their intuition, to get in touch with that power, to listen to it, to really design and create lives that they love, to live in alignment with their purpose. And so having a conversation. I remember getting in my car and like saying, all right, where are we going now? Like, and saying, all right, God, what are we doing today? Like, what is my purpose today? How can I serve? How can I tap into my highest power to be the best version of myself? And so this program and the work that you're doing really is about to help all of us to tap into the highest version, to be the best version of ourselves, so that we can all uplift each other and uplift the planet in the times that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel passionate about helping people. And once they can tap into their passion, it's in alignment with their purpose, right? Or they wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
And listening to the voices that say, do this, don't do that, go here, don't go there. And the tools to have the strength, to have an accountability partner, to have somebody that believes in them, to create a sixth sense community, a support community to help us live, to have the prayers, to have the resources to like just do automatic writing, to write with your left hand. I mean, to get out of our right and our left brain and just to get out and to be and to trust. So trusting and making the decision to trust, making the decision to say, I'm with you. You're my inner guidance system. You're my love. Like you're my best friend. Like you're here. Like who wouldn't want to tap into that? It makes me, I mean, I get, when my heart opens, my eyes want to leak. Like I feel that so strongly, Dr. Pat, about this is why we're here. This is why we're here. And once we align with our purpose and listen to that voice, tap into it, it's our best friend. Right? Listen
Totally.
See what it says.
Totally.
Do an experiment. If you've lost touch with your intuition, do a 7-day experiment before you go to bed. Your subconscious, do that command to your subconscious to listen to your spirit. Write a question out, put it under your pillow. Go to sleep. Don't listen to the news right before you go to bed. Like just do that. And you might not get an answer and that's the other thing is patience, right? You might not get an answer the next day. It might be a week. You might be doing something with someone. It's like, yes, that's it. That's what I got to do. Because the time is our own human construct. Right? We think it should happen in our time frame, but the divine, that rearranges itself the more we are in touch with our guidance system, has its own timing for us. And it may not always be what we want, but what we don't want may be the reason that we get what we do want. So,
and what you're saying is so powerful, but yet so powerfully important in the times we're living in now. People are rebuilding, they're renewing, they're rebirthing. There's so much going on now that really mimics 2009 and 10 in another way. The only difference is we're not really calling it much, but we can feel the energy. Thank you for today's show. I would love to know your closing message, what you'd like to leave us with. And thank you so much for a very, very powerful show.
This has been wonderful. Deepak Chopra, which you mentioned before, said, when we decide to take back our own power, we discover that the true solver of problems is intuition, not reason. And that goes right along with what Ralph Waldo Emerson's, which is trust your instinct to the end, though you can render no reason. So trust your instinct to the end. Create the habits. Do what it is that you need to do, that we all need to do to connect, because there's power in it. And once we align with our vision, and once we align with that power within us, there's no end. It's what I read this morning with Rumi. My last thing would be to say, the impossible is possible. There is love.
Thank you so much for today. Wow.
It's been great.
I want to encourage all of you to go back and watch this again. There's so much here. But the real question is going to be, are you willing to play with us now? Are you willing to take 1 or 2 or 3 things that were said today and try your own experiment? It doesn't have to be about getting your $2 million funding for your nonprofit. It could be. But maybe intuitively you pick up the phone and you reach out to somebody you haven't spoke with in a really long time. Maybe it's an idea you have to call Donusia and say, I don't know where to begin. The whole point of intuition is never to be static. It's always about movement, and it's essentially about flow. That flow is to guide. That guidance is within action. And sometimes when you do that, you don't even realize time doesn't exist. And then you realize time never did really exist in the realm of intuition. Donusia, thank you so much for today.
Beautifully said, Dr. Pat. Beautifully expressed. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
I want to thank Emily for not just pushing the right buttons, but what a beautiful job she did today as our producer in putting in images and taking such great care of us. We have a great team here at the Transformation Network, Transformation Talk Radio. And I am truly telling you, I would not be here if it wasn't for them. We stand on the shoulders of all that have come before. Please say yes to your intuition. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching the Living Your Genius show, Unlocking Your Power Within, with me, Donusia Lipinski, and Dr. Pat on TransformationTalkRadio.com. We are here every fourth Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific for practical insights, inspiring stories, and actionable steps to unlock your full potential and manifest the life of your dreams. Your journey to living your genius awaits. For more information on how to design the life you deserve and unlock the power within to live a genius life, visit GraceandEaseLifeCoaching.com. That's GraceandEaseLifeCoaching.com. See you next time.